Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to TipJar. No one's here.
Yeah, it's just looking, there's 0.
They're just playing hard to get. It'll be all right.
Makes me think something's not working.
That's true.
Like to have 0. You at least have like someone from ObservePoint in here.
Yeah.
Maybe we're in a time warp and it's not really 9 o'clock.
That is really weird that it's 0. Let's see.
There's one.
There we go. Hey, everyone. Welcome to TipJar. Thanks for joining us today. We will give people just a couple minutes to join and then get started. Let's see. I always forget, Mike, every time we do this, I forget how to set the chat settings so that everyone can participate.
Ooh,
Every single time.
chat. Let's see here.
No more.
Panelists can chat with everyone. Can we do that?
Yeah. And then we want everyone to be able to chat with us as well.
These can chat with everyone. Okay, should be good to go now.
There we go. I was in the wrong window. Perfect. All right. We'll give people just another minute or two to hop on. Thanks for joining us today. We are excited for this tip jar focused on how analysts can use ObservePoint. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. My name is Abby Pancoast. I am the product marketing manager here at ObservePoint. And today we're going to talk about how to use ObservePoint for web analytics. This is specifically centered around our analytics use case and just giving you an overview of the things you should be looking out for if you're using us to validate your web analytics implementations. So as always, just a quick recap on what we covered last tip jar. Last time we talked about how to solve common problems that you might find in ObservePoint. The main things that you would need to identify to figure out a remediation process for your company is what the issue is, who's responsible for it, and how urgent the problem is. Some of the things that we like to keep an eye out on are things like broken tags, broken pages, unapproved or unrecognized cookies or tracking. And we'll share the link in the chat of where you can watch this episode if you would like to. Just a reminder that all of our TipJar webinars are available online at resources.observepoint.com. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mike.
All right. I hope everyone is doing well, and thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to join us. Hopefully you find some value today, and we will have a Q&A at the end here, so please, if you have questions regarding today's topic or anything else, feel free to drop those in the chat and we'll get those addressed throughout the presentation or at the end. So today we're going to talk about kind of why use ObservePoint for web analytics, and then once we have that kind of why and what we should do it for, where we should start, just kind of like, hey, where do I even get going? And then we'll talk about leveraging some tools inside the ObservePoint tool belt that you can use, from just the very first thing of an audit to some kind of more advanced use cases. And then we'll even talk about a net new use case that we just released this last week, and then cover some product releases in time for product. I'm going to give you some sneak peeks of what's been released, and then like I said, just some general Q&A. So let's get into it. So why? There's kind of 3 main reasons here. We're going to cover mainly the first two here in today's session. So the first is about being efficient with your time and your costs, right? So there's nothing worse than having some bad data out there and having it out there for a long time and not being able to go back and fix that. So, and if you could even fix it, it would be lots of time and money, right? To have those resources go back and, do some recalculation of data, try to stitch some things together. Not a fun thing. And I think all of us have been there. So we'll talk about that and kind of, putting a little bit of time into using ObservePoint up front. That little bit extra time up front will save you more time and money kind of in the long run. And then essentially optimizing your strategy with your analytics, making sure that you have reliable data. That way, so when you do have to make decisions on that data, you can count on it, and it's not just an asterisk anymore, right? That the data that's flowing in through your different analytics technologies is accurate and is what you expect. The last one we're actually not going to really cover here today, but you can another thing on top of this is kind of that compliance and privacy aspect. That's becoming more and more of a hot topic. We'll have some, I think we've had some previous TipJars and probably have some more TipJars on that topic in the future. So where do we start? ObservePoint is really, really good at kind of telling you what's out there, right? And that's kind of where you need to start, because a lot of times you don't even know what you are responsible for, or what, or maybe you think you know what's out there, and then you're kind of surprised. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with customers at ObservePoint. I've been here about 10 years almost. Done every kind of job you can think of at ObservePoint, including working with customers. And so the shock that I get with a lot of customers, when first time we run a scan on their website, and they'd be surprised, oh my gosh, I didn't know that we still had that old analytics tag out there, or I didn't know we didn't have tagging on this area of our site. I thought we did. And so that's kind of where we want to start first, is just get a general lay of the land, and understanding what pages are out there, what tags or technologies that are within my analytics that I thought were deprecated or maybe not deprecated, and then any kind of associated cookies with that, that's collecting information as well. So to do that, we're going to use what's called an audit. So for most of our customers, are probably very familiar with this. If you're not new to ObservePoint, this is kind of be your best friend and your main tool that you'll use is what an audit. Essentially, it's an automated crawl that you can be very prescriptive with or very generic with, that will allow you to go out and get all those things you're talking about, right? Get a list of your pages, your tags, cookies, tons of other information as well. But this is kind of the main thing to go out and do that broad look into your website. These can be run on demand or on a schedule, and we have about, I think, 20 something locations around the world that you can run these from, and you can do all sorts of different viewports to give you kind of a mobile, an M-Web look versus a desktop look. So lots of use cases can be used here as well. What we're focused on today is right here in yellow, which is that digital analytics validation, and we'll be showing you some use cases with that today. So with audits, just curious kind of what I would expect to have in everybody's account, to kind of give you the foundation or the data flowing into ObservePoint to do proper analytics validation. First is getting a list of kind of those pages, tags, and cookies, which is what we call a discovery audit, right? Just let's set up an audit. This will give you an idea of what ObservePoint can see, what they can find, and this can be, right, I would say anywhere from 1,000, 10,000 pages, somewhere in there, just to go out and get an idea of what is there. I want to go too big on this first one, just because many times audits will go into places that you didn't necessarily want it to go to, and so you kind of waste some audit time or clouding the data sometimes. And so that's why we'll do this discovery audit, so we can get an idea of the list of pages that are there. And then once we have that list, we can then fine tune it and do some filtering based on that, and saying, hey, let's do a daily audit just for my top most visited pages. So this is an easy one for our analytics players, right? That you can go into any of your analytics tools, copy and paste some URLs out of there, paste them into ObservePoint, and let's get those your top traffic pages auditing every day. And these are, right, these are your most visited ones. So these are where you're getting the traffic. And so having any mess ups there, you don't want to go too long without knowing if there's any sort of tagging issues there. And on top of that, we recommend a weekly audit here, which is going to be, this is where you can look for more broken pages, broken tags, things like that, that are going to be outside of those most visited pages, right? You're not going to see those in your top reports. And so this is something, maybe in the 10K range or bigger, that is going every week on top of that daily audit. And then that's just kind of like where you want to start, right? And so we recommend going even deeper, right? Having more purpose with your audits, instead of your account properly with these audits, if I'm using, naming conventions, like you'll see my account here in a second. I have a daily audit and I have my 10K audit, my weekly audit. I'm just naming these things. You can even break them up by domains, right? If you have lots of websites, all the organization structure you need from folders to labels, ObservePoint provides. Talk about that general audit already. And then I like to get into site section audits, and you'll see why here once we get to some of the advanced use case of setting some kind of standards on these audits. Right, you're gonna have different expectations or different sets of parameters when we're getting into certain pages like product pages or display pages, maybe checkout pages, right? They all each have their own standards and kind of configurations that you would like to stop my train of thought there, but essentially like to have validated, right? And it's gonna be different from just a generic, hey, my Adobe Analytics, my Google Analytics there. It's gonna be very specific in saying these custom dimensions or evers or props need to be there in a certain way. So I like to set up certain site audits, site section audits that I can apply a specific rule and have a very specific set of outcome and desired from there. And then last here, you can see we have audit for specific rules. So this is what I'm talking about as far as when we get to these advanced use cases of setting up kind of your standards of making sure that they're very targeted and specific for the things that really matter to your business, right? If I didn't have this piece of data coming through, what is the consequence of that? Okay, so let's talk about, now that we've kind of got the pillars or the framework of getting the data into ObservePoint, whether it's via weekly or daily audit, a larger audit, this is going to allow us to have the data we need to have in order to set these standards or do that analytics validation that we need to. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to want to answer these questions now that we have that data set. And so first, we're going to say, are the appropriate analytics tags present and are they firing on every page, right? So I should expect my analytics to be on every single page. Maybe it's not on a blog or something like that. That's why we had that discovery audit up front to say, hey, these are pages we don't care about, so we're going to exclude those moving forward. And then is it being passed to the right destinations? Are the correct prod report suites actually on prod? I've seen use cases where I've seen staging report suites on prod, things that you just blow your mind. You're like, oh my gosh, how did I get there? Our end user didn't even have any sort of insight into or clue, and we're wondering, hey, why am I not seeing anything? Well, that's why. And then, once we can even look at the report suites, make sure the tag in there, so we can even get more granular and look at, okay, what are the variables that are being populated and what are the values? And so if I'm on a certain page, then I expect these values to be there. And then kind of the master level tag and variable rules here is going to be mapping these to your data layer. Typically, the data layer is your source of truth, operating through your tag management system, and we can actually map, a variable in your data layer down to a variable in your analytics tagging to say, if this value equals this, I then expect it to equal that here within my analytics as well. Okay, so what are tag and variable rules? I mentioned it several times here. This is the way ObservePoint uses kind of a logic system to apply to these audits that allows you to say under certain conditions. So they're essentially if-then logic that allows you to say, if I'm on a product page or if this tag exists, then I expect these set of conditions, meaning I expect this tag to be there with this report suite or this account, and I expect these variables. And you can get very broad with these, right? You just say, hey, I just expect there to be Adobe tag there. Or you can get very specific saying, I expect there to be Adobe tag there with these 40 variables with these specific values, or you can use regular expressions, things like that. And so this is this is kind of how you apply them. And then I'll do a little demo here of how to set these up. And so for general audit, like just those things we want to start with first, I would just make sure we're going to set up a tag that says, hey, or a rule that just looks to make sure that a specific technology or tag is there. And then once we get into those site section audits, we can get more specific, saying, hey, if we're on a product page, I expect this custom dimension to be filled with this, things like that. And you just get more specific as you get more granular with your audits. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that works inside the platform. So if you haven't seen it before, we have on the left-hand nav here, a standard section. This is where you can set up things like your alerts, your categories, specific categories for your privacy use cases. But today we'll be looking at tag and variable rules. So I've got a lot of rules here in my account. And so let's go ahead and take a look at just how this works. So pretty easy to set up a rule. Let's just say that we wanted this to be our analytics present. If I can spell today, there we go. Thank you. So present rule, and then we can add a label so we can easily find this later. And then we just put in our destination of where we want to be notified if this rule does not pass. From there, this is where we go ahead and add our conditions. This is a generic one. I kind of expect my analytics to be everywhere. If we want to be more specific, we could add an if condition saying, hey, if the URL is this, or if this tag isn't there, then don't apply, things like that. But for this main rule, very simple, right? We can come in here and we can search for our analytics tag. So if we want to look for Adobe, we could do that one. Or if it's Google, it's kind of the main two players in space, we can come here and just say, hey, I just expect on every page there to be a Google Analytics tag, and save rule. From there, you can go to your account, and let's say we have our daily top page audit one running. So we'll click into here, and it's really easy as this. We'll come to our standard. So we just set up that standard of saying, hey, this tag should be there. And we just go find, hey, this is our analytics present. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. Here we go. And we sign it. So easy as that, right? So now we'll have a check in place that we don't even have to look. This audit's going to run every day in the background, and we're going to be alerted if our analytics tag isn't even there. So really simple use case, really nice peace of mind that even if you have to do anything, it takes just a couple minutes to set up, right? So that's kind of the first level. From there, we can get more specific, right? And this is where I talked about, when we have our more specific audits, or maybe more generic audit, we want to have a little bit more about kind of things that are set or expecting to be set. So for instance, for doing analytics, right, we probably should have a channel variable. We probably should have a page name. So you can have something very simple like this. You could even get more specific, right? And so we could add more variables here and say, I also expect, let's see here, prop, but 25, whatever to be. And it gives us lots of options here. We can say it needs to equal something, should not equal something. I just expect this also just to be set. I don't care what the value is, just make sure it's set. We can use regular expressions too. If we know this is going to be something that's always equaling, like maybe it's countries, or maybe it's our home page, so it should be home. It could be, whatever it may be. You could do some options here if you know it's going to be one of 6 variables, right? So you have that option as well. So very specific or granular. You can even match it to be part of your query string parameter as well, which is pretty cool. So you could even have that as an option as well. So if there's a value in your query string, you can even have this value should equal that. So a lot of power within rules. This is where I talked about earlier, kind of the cost efficiency, right? Let's spend a little time up front. Let's get some of these rules set in place. We have a lot of recommended rules in our help documents, and we can help you get these set up. But once you have these set up, it's that a little bit of effort up front, and then you can apply them across your account at scale really easily. And then you have that peace of mind and that automation running in the background for you for your standards. So the next thing I'll talk about here is kind of the next level of another use case here with kind of testing your analytics is being able to test things before they go live is a huge win that ObservePoint can offer. So we have what's called file substitutions, and this allows you to take any sort of net request or file that's loading your website and replace it with something else. And so the main use case here, right, is to take, maybe you have a new staging library that you want to test, but you want to test it on production and not staging, right? You want a more stable environment, more real life environment. You can actually do that with ObservePoint. And so by setting up these file substitutions and taking your staging kind kind of library, ObservePoint can go and find that for you, replace it, and load what your next iteration or next release of tagging will look like. And so I'll show you how to set that up here. So we'll talk about standards. This is going to be a configuration that you'll be adding on to your audits. And so click on file substitutions here. And I have quite a few here. So one here is an example of blocking telium. There's all sorts of ones, but the easiest way to set this up right is to, I'll show you what example looks here. Basically, it's going to ask you, hey, what's the thing you want to block? And then what's the thing you want to replace it with? And so you can either upload a new file, or you can actually point it to something new. So it's simple as this. So if we go to ObservePoint's website, we can actually find our tagging here. So let me actually, by the way, if you haven't seen our new website, go check it out. The more dark mode for you. So there we go. Here's our Google tag. So I can just take, it's actually LinkedIn, but let's say I wanted to block LinkedIn, right? Or change LinkedIn. I can quickly go to ObservePoint, create a new one, and I can say this is LinkedIn. Let's actually just call it Start Everyone or something. And even though it's not, and we'll paste this in here, and then I can actually say, you know what, I actually want to replace. So I want to take this. Anytime you see this URL, go ahead and replace it with, let's say this one is now our staging one or something, whatever URL is. And then you can click save, and then you can go ahead into your audit that we have, right? And so this maybe be a new audit. So what you want to do is maybe copy one of your existing ones or create a net new one. So if you already have one configured you like, you could come in here and just copy this. And then we could now say, hey, let's actually go ahead and apply one of those file substitutions. And so you just click here, or whatever one you want to do. And that way now, when ObservePoint goes out and scans your website, it's actually going to replace that production library with the staging one. And so you can test your analytics, and you can apply those same rules that you've been already leveraging or already created on the previous step, and get that, that sign off or that check off of saying, yep, this library is good to go. The changes we made didn't break anything. We don't have any tagging dropping off. The variables we expected to be there are still there. And then if there's any new ones as well, you can check for those as well. So a really big use case I use is that file substitution, because it gives you that vote of confidence before you're actually going live with your analytics implementations. Obviously, ObservePoint can actually scan your lower environments as well, so you can test there as well. But if you don't have that luxury, or you want to have a little bit more confidence in the environment you're testing on, file substitutions is a huge tool that I would use. So other recommendations I'd recommend doing with ObservePoint. So one I just talked about was that lower environment, right? So we talked about kind of running these audits on your production environment. Strongly recommend also running ObservePoint in your pre-prod environment. Probably the closest one to production as you can get, just so you don't have any sort of false errors with the that site being down or not being very stable. And that way you can catch a lot of these errors before they even go live without having to do file substitution. This will just, whether it's broken pages, broken tags that aren't making it to their destination, all that kind of fun stuff. You can find before you go live. So you don't have to go into panic mode or doing the fire drill of once it went live. You can catch those analytic mistakes before you get in trouble there. And we also recommend integrating with any of your development pipelines, right? So if you have a CI/CD pipeline of that kicks off things, a lot of our customers will go ahead and kick off an audit as part of that, and so that way they can get that thumbs up as well, saying, hey, everything's good before we push this new live. Or if there's a change to your website, even maybe it wasn't even anything to do with your own analytics information change, it's just the website's being changed, which happens all the time. And I'm sure there's some frustration here on the call of saying, oh yeah, someone else broke me, I didn't even realize it. And so if you can get that ObservePoint in that pipeline, that'll really help instill confidence and make sure nothing happens. You're not ever playing catch up or missing critical information. We also have another solution here as well that I think we've talked about on TipJar previously. If not, I'm sure there's one coming up as well. But we have a solution called the Call Plus. It allows you to create interactions during these audits. And so if you have any sort of analytics happening with on-click of buttons or certain links. We can also configure that inside these audits, right? So it's not just a page level thing anymore as we're going across these audits. It's now we're interacting with the site, and if there's any event measurement that can happen, we can go ahead and validate that as well. And then lastly, you kind of saw it just under the standard section, but it's alerts. So sitting on top of kind of our tag and variable level, our layer, we have what are called alerts. And these are much more dynamic in the way you can receive notifications saying where a rule is, right, hey, it's kind of more black and white. Was it there or was it not there? We're going to let you know. Or alerts give you a little bit more threshold and more power to say, hey, if it didn't happen on a certain percentage of pages, or if it didn't went up 10%, rule failures went up 10%, let me know, give you some more power. And so we recommend creating alerts on top of this, just to, so if you can set a little more custom thresholds, so that way it's not always getting notified on some things you may not have cared about as much. But some things we set up alerts for: duplicate web analytics tags. Don't want to have inflated data, don't want to be paying for more server calls than you need to. ObservePoint can help out there. If there's any broken tags, so those are tags that may be fired on the website, but didn't actually, the data, that network request actually fired, timed out or failed out to, a 400 or something. And so that data actually didn't even make it into your analytics tools. And then also a huge thing here is, right, are there any errors? So we can actually look at the console messages and see if there's any errors related to your analytics tags. And so if there's any problems that are happening on your website, or you're trying to figure out why something's not working, we can capture those errors as we're moving throughout the website. And so really easy to set up alerts on that as well. And then I already spoke about kind of the more dynamic notifications here that you can create on those rules we just set up in the previous steps. And so alerts for the win here. Okay, so switching gears here just a little bit. So just this last week, we've launched a beta version of our new kind of net use case here. So you can and it's not necessarily a net new use case, but it's more so a new source of URLs. We talked about finding those pages right at the beginning with that discovery audit. Emails, is one of the largest channels, and a lot of our URLs, our pages, and some of our most traffic pages and key pages that we need to have critical analytics on are being sent out, daily, right? And oftentimes more than daily. And so we've created a new solution here that allows you to get those URLs instead of ObservePoint to do that your same use case here of analytics validation, or any other use case that ObservePoint can help out with, whether it's privacy to experience validation, things like those, some of that. This will be really key into getting more URLs into ObservePoint and those critical URLs for those use cases. So all those same rules we just set up in those previous steps, file substitutions, all those things will still apply here. This is just a way to get that set up. And so, kind of why this matter, right? These are high value pages, and we wanted to provide our end users with the easy way to kind of get that go or no go before these things go out. Once an email goes out, you can't really fix it, right? You can send out another email saying, hey, sorry, we sent the wrong links, or hey, we had the wrong thing, but oftentimes that's kind of more annoying than it is helpful to the end user. And so we want to make sure these emails are good to go, and that the measurement you're expecting to happen is actually happening before it goes live. So I'm going to do a quick demo of this. This is in a beta state, and we'll be going into a general availability here mid-summer or end of summer. And but it is available to all right now. And so kind of quickly how this works is when you go to configurations, you'll see a new option for setting up an email inbox. And what this means is you're basically going to create an email address to either forward or add to your seed list for your marketing sends, for messages to be sent to ObservePoint. And then once those messages are received by ObservePoint, we'll go ahead and grab all the links out of that message and go and audit those links and give you a report. And so it's pretty easy to set up. You'll just come in here, you'll create an inbox, and so we can say this is our TipJar demo inbox, but most likely you'd be like, hey, this is our daily marketing send or something. There we go. And then you can give it this some notes. Hey, this is for our marketing team, whatever it may be. And then you'll add your testing scenarios or your audits. And so I've created one in here called landing page. We can find that one. We can even actually use the ones we just were setting up our daily top. If you wanted to, you can use the same existing one, and the same configuration you have set up here will be used. And we can go ahead and click save. And from there, it'll generate an inbox address for us that we can copy here. And so once we have that, we can either just copy this, go find an email in our inbox that we have right now, and just forward it to this address. Or the more likely use case, right, is adding this to your seed list to be part of the test sends. And so you get that validation before it goes out. So once this happens, and you get your first message sent into ObservePoint, you're going to get an email saying, hey, we've received your message. We found 15 links, and we're on it. We're going to go and set up an audit from there. Once that audit is done, it usually takes a few minutes or so. You're going to get an email saying, here's the things we found, right? And so the email will be more geared towards the kind of the landing page use case, but the same analytics validation things of whether our technology is there, is the measure we expect with the proper variables and values all coming through still apply here. And so we can quickly go into our audit results. So for this audit here that I set up, we can view results, and it'll drop us a landing page, but right, we can go to our analytics use case here and go through and see, okay, did everything come through as I expected, right? And so I can already spot some issues with this audit here. This isn't my site, but essentially, right, you can see that we didn't have necessarily full coverage, and we may need to look at this, some things here. But if we had some rules applied, like we set up previously, those rules would be here. You'd get notifications on those rules saying, hey, this email link is going out, and it did not have my analytics on there. And so you could just say, hey, please don't send this out. We need to get that proper tagging on there before it goes out, and we missed that critical measurement. So huge new use case. Take advantage of it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly or to anyone at ObservePoint can really help you with this. But it's just these are key or critical URLs that need to have that tracking on there, right? These are going to be your converting pages, and so hopefully, if you're missing that tracking, it's really hard to go back in time and rectify that. Okay, like I said, anyone can help you out with this. So, and this is available to all right now. So go ahead and feel free to go set up your own. There's kind of step-by-step directions in there. If not, on your next call with CSM, just go ahead and they'll walk you through it, get set up. As always, we love your feedback. And so we have a feedback portal inside of ObservePoint. I'll show you that here. And this is where you can actually see what ObservePoint is working on, what's going to be released next. And so you don't necessarily have to wait for TipJar with me to find these insights. You can actually see what was recently launched, what we have planned, some ideas we're thinking about. And you can go through, read about them, and vote on them. And maybe your idea is not on here. We'd love to hear that idea, and you can go through and submit a brand new idea. I go through and I read these actually every day and categorize them and score them and evaluate them. And we base our roadmap on your feedback. And so super important to us that we get this from you. We want to hear what you have to say. Like I mentioned, right, we just had some recent product releases. We had this new email solution come out, and so that's a beta, but it is available to all. It's not necessarily a buggy beta, it's more of a lacking features. We have more features that we're going to be adding to make it more enriched, and so don't be afraid to use it. You're not going to be getting like, oh, this doesn't work. It's more of, hey, we have some more cool things that are coming before we want to make it kind of a general availability. We released some updates to tag and variable rules. So we covered that today. We added support for kind of final URL. So inside of ObservePoint, we have this concept of initial and final URL. That really comes down to redirects, right? So if we're requesting a certain page and then it redirects to another page, we want to be able to support your standards or your kind of your tagging measurement on that final page, right? Or maybe on the initial one, depending on what your desire is there. We also launched this accessibility reporting. So if you're trying to tackle that kind of really big challenge there of making your site accessible, we do have reporting now to support you there as well. And then we also just launched Web Vitals as well. So if you're trying to track down and kind of have the performance of your website, We also have that just launched recently as well. And these are all available in the audits. So the tools we talked about today to get you set up, you'll have this additional information and value provided in those same exact audits without having to set up any additional configuration. So makes every page you audit with ObservePoint even more valuable and even more reason to be setting those up on a more recurring basis. Okay, well, that is it for what I had today. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully you found some things that can help you get started. I know there's a lot of it was some basic and some more advanced things. So if you're anywhere in between, hopefully you found something there to kind of help you out and take you to the next level with ObservePoint. Abby, did we have any questions or anything come through during that time?
We haven't yet. If anyone would like to send any questions now, we can, I love putting Mike on the spot with as difficult of questions as you can think of. And if not, if you are all set, we can just kind of end there. So we'll give the guests a couple minutes to send in any questions you might have. Oh, here, Eric would like to know a little bit more about accessibility. You're asking the right guy. This is Mike's pet project.
All right, yeah, so I'll just show you. So here's an audit, right? Make sure you just go to ObservePoint, so I'm not showing some random company site. We have now on every page inside an audit, if you click on it, this will be coming out across an audit right now, but the first release or first version of this was at the page level. So you'll see a new tab called accessibility. Oh, this one's an old audit. I need a new audit. Let me sort. Here's a new one. So we can see how accessible or inaccessible our new website is here. But essentially, we've created testing here that allows you to test for the WCAG versions across 2.0, 2.1, 2.2, and the various levels with inside there. So there's single A all the way to AAA. And this is doing the automated testing of that. So I think there's about 80 something different standards across these things, and about 30 to 40% of that can be done automated. So all the things that can be done automated, we are doing for you. And here's kind of an example, right? If we want to just focus on our critical issues, let me get rid of these. These are things we probably want to address first. And so we can see that these buttons must have some additional text. And here's we'll call out the relevant documentation from WCG, kind of the standard here from W3C. We'll call out the element that is in question that needs to be addressed. We'll provide a selector for you of where to go find it, and then even provide you the solution of what you need to do. So for this instance, you can see we just need to do one of these things, and then we're good to go. On some of them, let's see, there's an example. They're all look like they're one. There may be some that say fix, like this one says fix all, even though there's one thing to do, fix all. But with all these things, we'll call out the issue and what level it's offending, whether it's 2.0 to 2.2, and then single A to double A, and then we'll even provide kind of the severity of those issues, where that issue exists, and even how to fix it, right? So for this one, if we just added an ARIA label, we'd be good to go, right? And so you don't have to do all of them, just one of them. So this is kind of the first foray to accessibility for ObservePoint here, but this will be at the page details level. Then, like I said, graduating into an audit-wide, then to account-wide kind of thing as we move forward over the next year or so. So that's the accessibility reporting. It's available to everybody. It should be any audit you had, over whether the audit's the last month or so. That data will be there. Just so happened when I clicked on first was from like 4 months ago. So that data's we've been collecting it for the last month or two, but this just came out this last week. So hopefully you can jump in here and I haven't seen a site that has not had problems, including W3 site and accessibility.com, things like that. So it seems to be quite the challenge to solve, and hopefully we can help solve that for you. Great question, Eric. Hopefully I addressed what you were looking for.
Awesome. Well, if we don't have any other questions, we can go ahead and end here. Thank you guys for attending TipJar today. You will get an email with a recording of this and a written summary. And just a reminder, we do have Edge coming up. We hope to see you in Utah in September for our user conference. Have a good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.